welcome to another episode of Horror Movie Night. This week we are talking about Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5, The Dream Child, and I am joined, as always, with my co-host, Kyle. Kyle, come on down. Now, woo! Wow. Now, longtime listeners of the show will know that we have a third co-host, Scott, who... record-breaking thing. This is the first episode in over 350 episodes that Scott is not in.
Everybody boo Scott.
Boo!
No, that's
he got a new job working for Spirit of Halloween, which is actually super dope.
Everybody cheer Scott.
But to fill one man's shoes, we brought in two men that you might be familiar with because they were just up on this stage like 15 minutes ago. So let's bring out Jordan and JB of Camp Nightmare.
Woo. Yeah!
Yeah, the Camp Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5 Dream Child. So,
you're welcome.
Good to be here.
Before we dive into talking about this movie, how about you real quickly just run down what is Camp Nightmare for people who might not know?
What is Camp Nightmare?
What
it's
isn't
esoteric.
Camp Nightmare?
Where is Camp Nightmare?
It's
inside of all of us.
It's in all of it. It was in us the whole time.
Yeah, that's what we all learned.
The whole time.
Is Camp Nightmare the friends you made along the way?
It is. It is.
Yeah.
It was. Camp Nightmare is finding out that you're the hero.
Yeah.
No, we are a genre-based podcast based in Frederick, Maryland, which for Night of the Living Dead fans, our town is mentioned in that film briefly.
Briefly.
And that's about the most fame we've ever had.
So working real hard to put it on the map over there.
Yeah,
with
well,
Camp.
that
we do
and
weekly shows.
That and the military base in Outbreak is based on the military base in Frederick.
Actually,
Fort
that
Detrick.
one's maybe more
That
famous.
actually is true.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah, besides the military base and the other thing, the Frederick's famous,
It's us.
they're famous
Camp
for
Nightmare.
us,
Okay.
clearly. But we do weekly shows. We do horror movie breakdowns, kind of similar to you guys. We also do celebrity guests. We produce some of our own stories into like audiobook sort of format.
So you
Get
figured
all
out how
dramatic.
to get celebrities to want to talk to you because we've been still trying to crack that code for 8 years.
I don't know.
Well,
Some of
I'll
them
tell
want
you,
to,
all right,
yeah.
funny story. You know how we learned how to do that?
How?
Very first time we ever came to Creature Feature in 2019,
Yeah.
we literally had a Zoom H4, right?
Yeah, I think it was
in a
a 4.
backpack with mics coming out of it like Doc Ock. And we just ran around the convention like guerrilla style, like accosting celebrities. So Tom Woodruff Jr., the famous
so it costs a lot
Oscar-winning
of money
makeup
in
artist,
fines.
had a table in the vendor room.
Yeah.
Or in the
Tom
celebrity
Woodruff
room.
fans.
And we did not know any better at that time. So we literally walked up to Tom Woodruff Jr. and we're like, hey, can we interview you for our podcast? His handler went fucking nuts. His handler was like, you need to back up. You need 30 days out to even consider interviewing Tom Woodruff. And Tom Woodruff was like, you know what? No. Come on up.
Tom Woodruff looked at his own line, which was like us, and then he looked over at Corey Feldman's that had one around the block, and he was like, come on, boys.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, that's how we learned how to get celebrities. We just make them.
Nice.
We just make them. Well, I'm not above holding somebody's pet hostage.
Yeah, and then also having IMDb Pro helps too.
Yeah,
it
no,
does.
I
It does.
just signed up for that. I've heard that tip.
Now
Well-
you can accost their managers and agents
Well, and also,
personally.
one of the benefits,
and they hate that.
One of the benefits of the genre community is that our heroes aren't necessarily like Tom Cruise or Oprah level stars.
Yeah, they're
right?
approachable.
Our
Right.
heroes are still doing cons, so like they're not adverse to talking to us.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Plus, sometimes we can not be terrible to talk to.
Yeah.
At least you make it enjoyable.
I've been doing this for 4 seasons.
Shit,
and
maybe that's our
Yeah.
problem.
That is our problem. We are hard to talk to. So you guys, this movie that we're talking about, it's the final film in our September listener submit it month. Yes, we are recording this in
Somebody
August.
submitted this?
Someone submitted this. So here's the
Wow.
email. I got
Sons
the
of
email.
bitches.
And they said, you've reviewed the worst Friday the 13th movie, which is Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan.
False.
You've reviewed the worst Halloween movie, which is Part 6, The Curse of Michael Myers.
Also false.
But you have not reviewed the worst Nightmare on Elm Street movie, Part 5, The Dream Child. What
Might be true.
gives? I think you should write this wrong for Listener Submit It month. Thanks, guys. Tom.
I think everything that listener said is questionable, and
Yeah.
I'm actually a little disappointed that you felt you needed to cater to them.
Listen.
But
Tom really put us on the spot, though, and we did not.
how are you going to
Yeah.
say
It's all right, it's all
that Curse of Michael Myers is the worst Halloween film when Resurrection exists?
So,
Yeah. Thank
so
you.
here's
yes.
my, yes.
All right.
Thank you.
My only argument is that Resurrection is so outrageous
Right.
that like I can
Right.
kind of have fun with it. Where like we did Halloween 6 very recently, and that movie is punishing.
I mean, but not
Even the producers-
Resurrection level punishing.
No.
Like, it doesn't have Josh Hartnett in his stupid fucking haircut.
No, you're
That's the
thinking
only-
H2O.
Listen,
Oh,
you're talking.
yeah, it
I
doesn't have,
love H2O. You're
No,
talking
no,
about
I love
H2O
H2O
is
as well.
amazing.
Yeah.
Resurrection does my girl Jamie Lee dirty in the first 5 minutes,
Yeah.
though.
The
And I
only
can't get behind that.
shining point in Resurrection is Busta Rhymes.
Busta Rhymes boxes Michael
Yeah.
Myers to death
Yeah, he's
in
the
a
only
ring of
fifth-
flame.
Yeah. That's just worth
I
the
guarantee you, when they
Sure.
sold Busta that character, he was like, "Nah, I get to fight him though."
I got to
He
fight
like
him.
wouldn't sign until he was like, "I get."
He
to,
took
I
less
get to
money
two
as long
piece
as he
him.
could fight him.
I like to think it's
is-
improv.
Yeah.
I'm trying to body Michael Myers.
That wasn't in the script. It just happened. But
It just
Right.
happened.
I do have to say I agree with Tom that Dream Child is the worst of the Nightmare. If we're taking the remake off the table,
Yeah,
I
okay,
think it is
yeah.
the worst one.
You don't
Yeah.
think Freddy's Dead is the worst?
Ooh, so
I know we talked about this earlier. You vehemently defend
yeah, you
that
put me
film.
on the spot. Freddy's Dead is in my top 3 of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
My goodness.
It
God.
is Dream
I just-
Warriors, the original, Freddy's Dead.
Matt, I
Freddy's
thought
Dead.
I knew you, man.
So here's my argument,
Apparently
right?
not.
There's
Didn't.
one thing I love horror movies, but more than horror movies, I love John Waters.
Sure.
And
Yeah, okay.
if you watch Freddy's Dead and you keep in mind that you're watching a movie that is directed by John Waters' personal assistant and watch it as if it was John Waters presents Nightmare on Elm Street, it is such a strange, campy delight to enjoy.
I mean,
All right, I'm gonna
yeah,
have to go.
I
I'm
guess
gonna have
there's
to
a little
rewatch
bit of-
it
There's
now.
a little bit of Hartford Road in
Yeah,
in part 6.
It's just it's wild, and I think it's one of those ones where like I'm not going to say it's a masterpiece, right? But if I'm just going to throw on,
one would hope not.
Yeah, but if I'm going to throw on a Freddy movie to just kind of have on in the background, it's just so colorful and light and popcorny that it's like perfect. Like it's
Is that the
absolutely
one where
perfect.
he beach kills somebody? Where
No, that's 4.
That's
That's
4.
4.
That's
Freddy's
four.
Dead is the one with Alice Cooper.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
Freddy's
and
Dead has
Tom and Roseanne.
See, a lot of the
I-
Nightmare on Elm Street
I
movies
was-
start to sort of flow together.
I was
for me.
expecting Tom Arnold to come out in 5 because this is the first time watch for me, and
Yeah.
I knew that he was in 1, and for some reason I thought he was in 5.
Part 5. No,
and
he's in
not-
Freddy's
Yeah,
Dead.
wait.
Which I understand
You're the
probably
one that
puts
watched
Freddy's
Ginger
Dead.
Snaps 3 and thought it was 2, right?
No, that's
No,
Scott.
Scott.
That was Scott.
I,
Scott.
I only the only
So
the
how-
only
wait.
mistake I've ever made on this podcast is watching the
Wrong metamorphosis.
Wrong
But,
metamorphosis. But
so,
that's fine.
Kyle, one of the things that people might not know about you is while you have one of the most incredibly brilliant minds I know for like discussing horror movies.
Thank you.
You do not watch franchise
No.
films, so like
No, I have those are some blind spots.
I
have
need
for
you to
sure.
tell me which Nightmare on Elm Street movies you have actually watched.
Okay, so I had seen 1 and 2 and 3, so
Okay.
which
Oh,
are
thank
like
God.
the Holy Trinity, truly,
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. And yes, stuck in my head like
You're
at least
welcome.
once a week.
You're welcome.
And then right before this show was the first time I saw 4.
Okay.
To prep for 5, to then never watch Freddy's Dead and just call it quits then.
man.
And then I'd seen New Nightmare. So so this
So this is
franchise-
probably the most complete
this is
franchise
the most
in
complete
your
one. Yeah, if you were to ask me like Friday the 13th, I've seen 4 of them, and one of them was At Your Mercy. So like I
Yeah.
don't know.
Is it because
know.
you don't like franchise?
I don't know
movie
what
franchises.
No, it was just, I think it was just one of those things where I was born in '91, and for some reason, I was very scared for a long time. Like I wasn't like a introduction to horror at like 5 or 6. I had nightmares about Chucky and didn't watch
No, heard.
horror. I think what I call the first one I watched in theaters was the Grudge remake, and I remember like there's just being popcorn butter all over my fingers, and me trying to close my eyes, cover my ears,
Oh,
and then
no.
burning the butter.
Right, 'cause the
my
butter gets in
eyes.
your eyes.
Yeah. I was
And
clueless.
now if he even smells popcorn butter, he literally just shuts down.
And
Yeah,
the thing
no, I
about
had to run
popcorn-
in here just by the concession stand. just no, please don't.
Well, yeah, and the thing about popcorn butter is it goes straight to the brain.
Yeah, so I-
any
yeah, I-
orifice
It will literally rewire your neurology.
that shit'll fuck you up, bro.
And that's how I ended up here on horror movie night. Was that way? But,
Popcorn butter. Gotcha.
No,
Popcorn butter.
I don't know. I ended up getting into that mid 2000s or whatever, and then I was seeking out new movies. Like I was reading Fangoria and looking at like what was coming out or like what Magnet was releasing on DVD or like IFC and all that shit. And so I just sort of skipped over stuff, and I've just piecemealed where I came back to for this.
What
So-
a dark time to get into horror.
No, it was-
the mid 2000s.
Yeah,
like, you're
and-
talking like Tooth Fairy era. Like,
Yeah, no, we watched 2001 Maniacs recently for the podcast.
Oh,
don't
that's a
listen to that.
wonderful
That's not.
film.
Don't
No,
listen
don't.
to that
It is a
episode.
wonderful
It's
film.
terrible. But
wonderful.
I remember. Thank you, Eli. But I remember seeing an article about it in Fango and being like, "Oh yeah, that's what I got to watch because Fangoria is writing about it, right?"
I
Like
think
that's
that was your
important.
famous quote. You're like, Fango wouldn't write about a bad movie.
Right, yeah. I'm like, in Fango we trust. I was all for it at 14, 15 years old. And so, but anyway,
No,
all that to
Fango
say,
wouldn't do that.
my head was filled with a lot of trash. It still is, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to put together the franchise pieces.
Well,
and
That's fair.
As Stephen King said, there's trash and then there's bad trash.
That's absolutely
right?
right.
So hopefully our heads are just filled with trash.
Yeah. All right. So here's my
not bad
question.
trash.
That's a great lead into the question that I've been debating. So Dream Child is definitively trash, but is it good trash or is it bad trash?
Well, okay, actually, here's something interesting. I just piggybacking off that Stephen King thing. When they were looking for the director of this film, Stephen King was one of the first people they asked to direct this movie.
And Frank Miller.
And Frank Miller. And think about this.
What?
They didn't just ask Stephen King to do this. This movie came out in 1989, which
that's
means
after Maximum
after
Overdrive.
Maximum Overdrive. These people
I
saw
want-
Maximum Overdrive.
I want to believe that Stephen King responded with, "Have you seen Maximum Overdrive, though?"
Yeah, when Stephen King is asked why don't you direct more movies, he says go watch Maximum Overdrive.
Yeah.
Right,
So
right.
when they saw that movie, like this is clearly
Also,
the man
to
we
be
need to do the Dream Child.
To be fair, I would argue that cocaine directed Maximum Overdrive.
But see, that was my
Sure.
next thing. So they handed him money and the script was still so bad, he didn't say, yeah.
He said,
Well, I think he was trying to stay sober.
Okay.
At the time, I think he had just gotten clean and was trying to stay that
Gotcha.
way.
Oh, yeah,
And
that
he was
would've
like,
sent
the
him
only
over.
way I do this is coked out of my mind.
That would have sent him into a spiral. You can't just. Do that.
I would argue that, to your question, whether or not it's good or bad trash, number 5.
Yeah.
I would argue that in context, it's good trash. By itself, it's bad trash.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Kyle, how about you talk about the point that you made? Because you did make a really good point when we were hanging out at the table today.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the same thought, but the way that I look at it is that if you were to, because I think that my answer is different, but the way that we get there is the same. Because if you make this movie for $1 million or less and take Freddy Krueger out of it, and Vinegar Syndrome put it out next month, I would be like, this movie is batshit insane, and I'd be like recommending it to everybody because it is. Like, premise-wise, it's bonkers. But then,
it is.
And at times I was trying to like really watch it without Freddy Krueger lenses, right? I was just like trying to just be like, Freddy's just a guy, like just a maniac that I don't know anything about, no previous knowledge. And I'm like, I could get down with this like infant Freddy Krueger attacking, and then all the crazy transitions and staircases and crazy effects that was happening.
Yeah.
And there were pieces of it that if it wasn't a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, I'd be like, you got to check out this motorcycle scene. Like,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, and I
would
will
agree.
say that this one has some of the best practical in the
best
entire
effects.
franchise.
Yeah, yeah.
This is one of those films where I think similarly to Friday the 13th New Blood, I think is the other one that the MPA just absolutely massacred in cut requests. Because, I mean, I guess now you can like piece it together and figure it out. But even the scene with Greta, you're supposed to... She's eating herself. He's like ripping parts of her own guts out and feeding it to her. But like in the crazy edit, it's just like he slaps her into a high chair, feeds her like the tiniest piece of meat, and all of a sudden she looks like a garbage pail kid.
Out of a
Like,
porcelain
the
doll.
mutation is
Like
insane.
The doll effect, out of all
the
those
doll.
other effects, the fact that they even have this just plain ass porcelain doll presented to her, I'm like, you couldn't have done something a little bit better.
It looks
There's
like
like
they literally
$500
just bought
in
it.
They
this movie.
just bought it. They were like, you know
Still
what?
got
We
a
can't
tag
do that
hanging off
guts
it.
thing. Yeah, just the Goodwill is like right down the street. Just
smash the
find
doll.
one.
And that's how they made Annabelle.
Call it a day. Call it a day.
The dreams in this in general, like the very beginning of this movie, we get the most bizarre stylized sex scene I've ever seen to start off the credits.
Yeah, it was like Top Gun starting off the movie.
Yeah, but it
Like
was
the blue lighting.
It was like Top Gun, but like Nightmare version of Top
Yeah,
Gun.
but-
Like,
Yeah.
But then our main character, she's taking a shower, and my immediate suspension of disbelief, dream or not, if I'm in a shower and I see a bug, I get out of the shower and
Yep.
shut it off. She's got like mud exploding
poop
out
water,
of it.
yeah,
it's like
coming up.
poop water coming out, and she's like, "Oh, let me examine this closer.
Right?
Let me put my hand out there and see
listen,
what's going
if it's
on."
brown and wet, you're not trying to figure out anything else about it.
No.
Turn the
And
water
if you
off.
are, something's very wrong with you.
See, I gained a little bit of respect for her at that moment. Because I'm like, this is a woman who gets things done. She sees a problem in her shower. She's like, I'm going to fix this motherfucker right now. I'm in the cleanest place I can possibly be in my house, the shower.
And yet it's still filthy, which says a lot about her house.
Yeah, well. True to that.
Yeah.
And then she's like, for 15 minutes, it's basically like dream inception.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
like you
Yeah.
keep thinking the dream is over, the dream's not over, and then we get this Freddy Krueger birth scene where he looks like the puppet on Don Rickles' hand in that Tales from the Crypt
Yes,
episode.
he does.
Like, he looks like
Yeah, he does.
Morty for the ventriloquist.
He also
summon.
looks like Proto the Voldemort
yes,
thing, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
watched it
yeah.
a couple nights ago, and that's all I could think that like someone in the Harry Potter franchise has seen this movie and was like, wait, hold my beer.
Yeah.
And
You're
can
like-
we talk about the scene before we get baby Freddy where we see this insane asylum where, like, I haven't spent a lot of time in insane asylums, but I can't imagine they just put them all in one room
Right.
and then just let them do as they please.
thou-
You know, lock the door
Here's
at the
a
end of the
thousand of
night,
the
but,
most
you know,
violent
do whatever you
people we
want
know.
in there.
Unfortunately, I don't want to turn you on to a documentary called Titty Cup Follies from the 60s, which was like that.
That's what they
Yeah.
did?
It's
Well,
like horrifying.
I mean, there is the
Maybe not
logic.
60s,
There is the logic
but-
that if we put them all in the same room, they'll take each other out.
Right. It's
Sure.
it's a horrific social experiment
Yep.
that did not work.
And I like this.
and
this
created
place
Freddy
is-
Krueger, apparently.
Yes, and they have exactly 100 maniacs in this
Yes. Yep.
facility.
Yep.
They're like,
Well, that
well,
was their
count them,
cap-off.
buddy. You can count them every night. It's 100 every night.
Yeah.
80 more or less, you'd have a completely well-rounded baby come out of that.
Yes, right.
Exactly 100 to make Krueger.
Just over.
Yeah,
That
how you do
particular
it.
sane asylum is very much like the Haunted Mansion, where they're like, we've
Yeah.
got 99 haunts, but there's always room for one more maniac in here.
Exactly.
That's very that.
I know I mentioned this to you guys today on the floor, but I don't want to overcomplicate a slasher movie that is not built to be really thought about. But, you know, a lot of these movies, be it Friday the 13th or whatever, you kind of like have one survivor girl or guy, and then you kill them in the next one and then move on to the next group of friends. But this one, we're like keeping the survivor girl for multiple steps, which creates this weird situation where just a year prior, she already watched all of her best friends get murdered.
Yep.
And now she's got some really close relationships with a whole new, brand new crew of best friends who know nothing about her dead friends of the past
And
or
she's
this
ready
friend.
to do it again.
Yeah, and that really just tells me that she's irresponsible.
Yeah.
She
Yeah,
brought
yeah.
in the B squad.
She
you
is
know?
selfish.
Well, it's one of those
She
things.
should
that's
be
like full-
Devon Sawa in Final Destination 2.
She should be Devon Sawa in SLC Punk.
Yes.
That's-
Well,
And that would be friendly.
That was a deep cut.
Yeah.
That was a deep cut for you guys.
But that's like a fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me thing.
I
Fool
feel
me
like
twice, I'm still gonna live
Don't
through
get new
it.
friends. Don't do this to yourself.
yeah, I feel like
again.
these were
Bad
the people
choice.
she hung out with like in middle school, and then she like drifted away. Then she got her true core friends.
Yes.
They all got killed by Freddy. So she's
Right.
like, "Hey guys, you know, we haven't seen each other in a while. Everyone I know
Or
is
she
dead."
was just mean girlsing him the entire time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My dad used to be a drunk, and sorry about that
Well, see,
too.
and here's my question: is who's she going to befriend after all this? Right? Who's going to be the third group of friends who's so desperate?
Jake.
Her,
Her
they're
and the
like,
kid,
"I'm going to
dude.
hang
This
out."
is her
with
and the
Just
kid.
her and
Just
Jacob,
her
bro.
and the kid.
This is literally a
Alice.
prequel to Terminator.
It's
Oh, okay.
her and the
just-
kid from the
it's just
cover
her
of
and John
Angela's
Connor, bro.
Ashes. You see
You
that?
can take him to Mexico, teach him how to fight.
yeah, I mean, you do bring up, though, like the nightmare scenes in this, it sucks. It sucks that the MPA fucked this up so much because
Yeah.
there are like these really stylized moments. I almost would say like there's almost a Tim Burton like vibe to
Yeah.
so many scenes in
Big
this.
time.
The diving board stop motion, like
Yeah.
even the stop motion scene where she opens the
Oh, the
fridge and all the
fridge.
food is like rotting out.
Yeah,
and-
and that's what I'm saying. It's
thought
some
that
of the
was great.
best practical in the entire franchise.
Yeah,
and what I was saying to you earlier on the floor was that the movie, the saga, or it's not the saga, the episode before this, Nightmare 4,
Yeah.
was directed by Rennie Harlan, who's the guy that directed Die Hard. So that movie is legitimately just an action film from beginning to end, right? So like, I feel like the powers behind this movie were like, how do we top that? Like,
Yeah.
we have to have these amazing practical dream scenes, right? But
Yeah.
you're right, the MPA fucking just
But it
ruined
also
it.
has like I think it's the lowest body count in any Freddy
Yep.
movie. There's 3 people.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's only 3 bodies in the movie. From what I read, too, this movie was being rewritten like 1,000 times.
Yeah.
It had already a finished script when they got the people together to make the movie, and they kept almost nothing. Like all the lines were changed except for "It's a boy." Apparently,
Yeah, that's the only line that stayed.
Yeah.
They had
That's
4
nuts.
weeks to film it and 4 weeks to edit it so
Yeah.
they could get it out by their release
Yeah,
date.
that
then
doesn't
it
doesn't
made-
show at all.
It made the least. I think it made the least amount of money of any of that franchise.
Yeah.
And which is why they were like, "Oh, the next one, he's dead. Just
Well,
please come
he's
back to the
fucking dead
theater."
now.
Well, you know, that kind of sucks because as a film, 5 is it successfully carries on the continuity from 3
Yeah.
and
Oh,
4,
yeah.
right? Which
Yeah.
is, you know, more than anyone could have asked for from that film, but it
Totally.
somehow does it. So it kind of sucks that it's like the least
Yeah.
watched one because it does kind of complete that arc.
Yeah.
It does. But I also think this might have one of my least favorite kills. It's either this or the Invisible Freddy Karate one in
Oh,
part
God.
4.
Oh,
but
God.
I can't stand the comic book kill. Like
Yeah.
Oh,
and-
yeah.
And I feel like with the exception of part 3 where he uses someone's love of puppetry against them, like anytime Freddy uses someone's geeky vice against them, it's always bad. Like the video game is bad.
I
Do
agree.
you think that springs from you being a comic book nerd at all?
No,
And you're just
I mean, a
if you're gonna kill us, you're gonna do us justice.
It was more
motherfucker.
like a take on me kill than it was a comic book
Yeah.
kill.
Yeah.
Like,
Which you somehow love more, though. So are you still offended?
that is true. I do love Aha.
Well, the
I mean, who
director was
doesn't?
interviewed, and the director said that he knew that was a stupid kill, but he was such a comic book nerd that he was like, I gotta put this in there. And it does kind of, even if it is lame, with obviously a bloodless kill and pretty comical. Mark as a character, though, is the only one who's able to use some Dream Warrior power.
He is. He turns himself into his comic book character,
Yeah.
which is pretty dope. But
Yeah.
But
But I
doesn't
also
really do
thought that
anything.
was like Freddy turning him too, because Freddy always has so much control. So he's like, "Your comic book character's stupid. I'm gonna
I mean,
make,
it-
I'm
I
gonna
mean, it
make
is
you
stupid.
it
Listen,
and then
his
kill
comic book
you."
character was super lame.
Yeah, it was so
like
lame.
I was kind of happy that he died in that form.
It was like he read what steampunk was supposed to be and never saw a picture or an image of it. So he's like, "Oh, I got this. It's fine."
Only Studio
But he knew what the
Ghibli had
Zodiac
existed
killer
then.
looked but he knew what the Zodiac killer looked like,
yeah,
so he just
right.
did that.
Yeah, so he was like, "Okay, I can find a middle
No one
ground
knows
here."
what the Zodiac killer looked like.
He looked like the guy under the mask. You just don't know what that guy looked like.
That's fair.
Right.
Right, yeah.
very
See, that makes
convincing.
sense.
Oh, is it
think
not?
about it.
Wait, so it's not Ted Cruz.
Oh,
No,
well,
it might
no,
be.
for sure.
It might be Ted Cruz.
Played by Ted
I
Cruz?
was grossly misinformed.
Yeah.
We have to
speaking
see if
of
his
Ted
name
Cruz,
is an anagram.
speaking of Ted Cruz, can we talk about the clear pro-life message of this film?
Oh my
of Nightmare on
God.
Elm
Oh
Street
my
5
good
Dream,
Lord.
Dream Child.
Well, hang on
Clearly.
though, because there's a whole soliloquy that Alice has where she's like, "It's my choice to have this baby,"
That's true.
which
That's a choice.
technically pro-choice. Just throwing that out there.
She's
Throwing that out there.
very pro her choice. in
Yeah,
that
and
moment.
it is.
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
Isn't that the
okay.
point of the
and
pro-life, pro-choice
and her
debate,
choices,
though?
even though I'm pretty sure this baby will be a serial killer,
my dreams
that's
keep
the
telling me
world's
so.
problem.
My
now.
point is that isn't the whole real core of the pro-choice, pro-life debate the choice part, not the
that
life
is
or death
that
part?
is that is fair.
It's
okay.
not about whether babies live or die. It's about who gets to make the decision.
It's and who gets to infiltrate their dreams
Right.
after.
Just-
Right. So all I'm saying is Ted Cruz infiltrates dreams.
Yeah, it's terrifying. Yeah.
As the
I can
Zodiac
just-
killer.
I'm
if you
already
take anything
seeing
away
all
from
those
tonight,
one-star reviews rolling into our Apple podcast
I'm not saying
feed.
I came on here intentionally to tank your podcast tonight.
So one of the other things in this movie is like I really, really like the sequence where all of Freddy's victims' faces are like basically ripping
yeah.
him apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole stupid fucking way we got to that though.
Oh, it's-
Yeah, with the kid.
Yeah.
With
Yeah.
the kid turning into also a Freddy and just like it's
What,
just
can I ask who is that actor that plays that kid, and what else
Oh,
is he in?
he's from Jurassic Park. He's the
from-
kid.
Yes, it's
He's from
okay.
Jurassic Park. I
Okay.
thought it was the child on the cover of Angela's Ashes. If you ever seen that,
Oh,
Yes.
It's like
yeah.
I,
It's
for,
like I
for
thought
a
it was
brief
the same
second,
kid.
I thought it was Gage from Pet
Oh,
Sematary.
Pet
no.
Sematary.
no, I
Yeah,
think
that's
he's
a
in New
different-
Nightmare.
He's in New Nightmare.
Yeah,
he's the one
But
from
I thought,
Jurassic
but I
Park.
actually thought it was him briefly too, and then that
Yeah.
kid's eyes were twice his
Yeah,
size.
he's
so
it looks like a
was
6-foot
nuts.
turkey.
Well, and then there was a point where I thought it might be Isaac from
for
Children of the Corn.
He's somehow gotten
But,
younger.
but Isaac is like 45.
Your Rolodex of horror kids is just.
He's like, it's got to be one of these 5.
Is that Eddie Munster?
They've only got a couple kids that they'll put in these movies
That's
and they
true.
just keep
Well,
using
and
them.
God bless those kids' parents.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like
They were rolling in it. They're
Yeah.
fine. They were good.
No, I love my child. They're definitely not a paycheck.
Yeah. Yeah, they could be in a Freddy Krueger movie. It's fine. It's fine.
Well, it's like whoever Linda Blair's parents were.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The Blairs.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
I believe
yeah,
their
I
names
believe
are
they were the
Blair.
Blairs.
Something tells me that they've changed their name.
So I wrote down some lyrics that I need to present to you guys.
Oh, I'm
All right.
excited.
Did
Present.
anybody listen to the closing credits song at the end of this
Yes.
movie?
It was the rap song, right?
It was the rap
Yeah,
song
yeah.
by Kool Mo D.
What?
Which-
It's Cool Mo D?
It was Kool Mo D, and it is a 5-minute diss track to LL Cool J that they used as the
had
closing
nothing to do with the movie at all.
Nothing about to do with the movie. And I had to write down this insane verse where he just lists what he thinks LL could stand for.
Any guesses?
So he says, now LL stands for lower level, lackluster, last least, limp lover, lousy lame, late lethargic, lazy lemon, little logic, lucky leech, liver lipped, laborious louse with a loser's lip, live in limbo, lyrical lapse from a low life with loud raps.
Oh,
Lord.
Wow.
Wow. That makes me want to
I'm,
watch Nightmare on
I'm
Elm
a
Street
little
movie.
upset that he didn't say anything about LL licking his lips all the time.
So
Golden opportunity.
this sent me down a whole rabbit hole of like I guess the Cool Mo Deep and LL Cool J beef was like this 4-year-long thing because LL Cool J bragged about being the best rapper on the planet on one of the tracks in Bigger and Deffer, and Cool was just like, fuck that shit, and like just started writing songs about how he's like, you're just a pop star, like you have no hip hop ethos whatsoever, which is basically every rap battle in the 80s, essentially.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, wouldn't it have been great if LL had just returned and done the ending credits for Halloween H2O as a diss track right on back, and they continued the diss tracks, but only in final credit sequences for horror
Close,
films?
yes.
You took the thought right out of my brain,
See?
man.
Because that's a
I
good
was like-
fucking
I was
idea.
like,
It
you
is.
know?
It
That's
is.
how we got to start beefs now.
That's right.
Secret beefs.
We'll make the whole
Corporate
entire
money
movie.
beefs. They pay us to put the diss track in the movie.
Yeah, we'll spend months and months making the movie.
Do you guys want to do this?
Yeah, it sounds
do
great.
We wanna just like,
Did we
guys,
just-
okay, this stays in this room.
Yeah,
but
no
we
one
at
tell
Camp
anyone.
Nobody
Nightmare
fucking-
are
I'd
gonna
see
get into
all
a
of you.
fight,
Yeah,
but
listen,
20th Century
honor
Fox
system,
is gonna
guys.
pay for it.
Honor system. Nobody talks about
Yeah,
it.
by
talked about
staying
this.
silent, you've all agreed to contribute financially to our movie. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, do you have an idea for a podcast but don't know where to start? Or do you have an already existing podcast that you want to take to the next level? Well, check out WeKnowPodcasting.com. From concept development to theme music to editing to logos, WeKnowPodcasting.com is a one-stop shop for all things pod. Don't hesitate to hit us up. We're very nice.
All right, so unless we have any other thoughts, let's dive in to the next segment.
Always have thoughts.
of the show.
Let's dive in, though, yeah.
What's your double feature? We'll start with you guys on the other end. If
Oh,
you're
I gotta-
watching,
I gotta
if you're
go to-
watching this one, what are you gonna put on afterwards?
Larry Cohen's It's Alive.
Okay, good call.
Because these are two movies that feature killer babies.
Yes.
And that's what we're all there for, right?
Truly.
We get Freddy Krueger in our grotesque, melted old man baby form. We get It's Alive, which is maybe the most pro-choice movie. Just to counteract.
Yeah.
If we're going to say that one's pro-life, the other's pro-choice, simply because those cops choose to pull those guns and point them at the baby and try to kill him, which is some form of abortion. I don't know which
I
kind.
think it's just infanticide, bro.
That's the
If
type.
they're
That's,
alive,
that's
if
the
they-
word I was going for, but you help me out.
Tomato, tomato. I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah.
you
Some
know.
people's eyes. Yeah.
So anyway, I think those two go well together. Have
Right.
just like a bouncing baby-filled night of horror movies. Those two go well together.
Good
And
call.
also, It's Alive is just fun because it's came out in that magic period before PG-13,
Yeah.
where this is a baby that rips itself out of a woman and then murders people for the entire movie,
Like out the
and
jump,
it's
yeah.
rated PG.
Yeah.
So it's fun for the whole family.
Yeah.
So you can bring the kids in; they'll get a kick
Dude,
out of it.
The late 70s and early 80s were weird
Some
times, kids.
magical
Thank
times.
Where
you.
hard R films were somehow rated PG.
It's crazy.
Go watch All the President's Men. They use the F word. They say fuck like 15 times the first 3 minutes of that film, and it's a PG. Is that right? It's true, dude. I swear to Christ.
All right, JB, what's your double?
So
feature
I'm
on
gonna
this?
piggyback on that killer baby
Yeah.
idea, but I'm going to go a way different direction. I'm going with Dead Alive.
Ooh.
I'm going with Dead Alive solely
yeah.
based on the scene with the baby rips its way through the nurse's face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which here's why I love Dead Alive. I'm a big Eli Roth fan. I've seen an interview with Eli Roth where he was like, literally nothing that I've ever seen has ever satiated my bloodlust except Dead Alive. He's like, Dead Alive is the only movie that's been gory enough. Now, I would argue that I have others that I like for gore more than Dead Alive, but I think if we're going with the killer baby theme,
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
a
where
good
we're
call.
going.
Yeah, that's a good one.
All right, Kyle.
Sticking to the theme here, I'm
Baby
going to go
theme.
with The Suckling.
Oh,
Which is a little more grotesque of a baby, but it's an aborted fetus that comes and starts killing people around the neighborhood.
This is a fun conversation we're having.
This is
this is-
a blast. I hope everybody.
Raise
Y'all
your
having
hand-
fun?
Raise your hand if you're having a baby in about a month.
Yeah, no, this
Yeah,
is
this guy's having a baby.
See, he's going to be a dad. That's what makes this okay.
this
Yeah.
is this is what this is okay.
Thank you. Thank you, JB.
It's cool. My friend's
Appreciate
a dad.
that.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to break the motif that we had.
Oh,
baby
thank you
theme
so
is
much,
done.
man.
Mine is going all visually aesthetic. When we're in Greta's nightmare, they pan across this dinner table, and I just waited for any person at the table to start singing the Banana Boat song,
goddamn
and
right.
I'm going with Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice,
yeah.
So
My
much of
man.
this movie's visuals feel like they're from Beetlejuice
Yeah.
anyway. Yep.
Amazing.
I mean, like, why not just complete the whole thing?
Hell yeah.
So the final segment of the show is normally what did we watch this week, but we figure we'll pander to the fact that we're here live at Creature Feature Weekend. Hey, everybody, hey. So just real quick down the line, either something cool that you've seen today or something you're excited about later on this weekend.
Oh, I got one.
Okay, I got a good one. We met up today with a good buddy of ours of the show, Eric Rudd, who has his whole station set up where he is selling all kinds of macabre things.
Super cool
And
makeup
he
artist.
built me a custom mask for a film I'm making called The Only Ones, and he brought it today, and it is just terrifying. So his station, just go check out his whole station of blood and gore. I'll find the whole name, and I'll send you a link. That's one of the coolest things I've seen so far, but there's a lot of weekend left.
Yeah.
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 All right, so the coolest thing that's happened to me personally thus far since I've been here is two-parter, and I'll be brief about it.
Oh, yeah.
The first part is, so we just hosted the franchise showdown panel. We had no idea Savini was going to be part of it, and then he was the first fucking person that showed up.
So you got to have like a one-on-one
and literally,
with Savini
like,
for
it
a
was
bit.
all of us just sitting in a silent theater, and Tom Savini just walks down to the front row and like turns and waves at all of us and just sits down in the front row. So Kyle Labine, Tyler Labine's brother, Kyle Labine from Freddy vs. Jason and Halloween Resurrection, he was on the panel as well.
Yeah.
Tom starts talking, and Kyle goes, I'm going to let you finish, Tom, but hang on 1 second. And straight up fucking Kanye Wested Tom Savini in the middle of this panel. So that's part one of this. So part two is between that segment and this, I went to go get my cigarettes from my table, and as I'm in that hallway, Kyle and Tyler are walking by me, and I fist bump Kyle. I was like, dude, that was the coolest thing I've ever seen. And his brother goes, what? So I relay the story to his brother, and his brother goes, you fucking Kanye Tom Savini? Just the absolute reverence that people have for Savini is wonderful to me.
Should I bring this up during the Taylor Labine?
Yes, you should.
Q&A?
Maybe.
Because I'm like 90%
Maybe.
sure that Tom Savini is like plotting his death
I feel like
right
Tom
now.
Savini's going to come bursting out of the wall like Kool-Aid in the middle of that Q&A and just snap Tyler's neck.
Like supervillain Freddy, just
There
full
you
black
go.
and white.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
See? We
How
know
about
to
you,
keep things
Kyle?
on theme.
This is,
Well, I
this is
haven't-
your first creature feature.
This is my first
so-
creature feature, which I'm very excited about.
Aw.
And it's my
Hey.
first convention since, probably even like 2019.
Yeah.
I not only was there a pandemic, but I also had a kid, and like being
Hell yeah.
able to just come down for a little bit. I wanted to bring him, but I'm 6 hours away, so a 6 hour car ride with the boy was not going to work. But I'm just happy to be back and like feel the energy of a new show. That's like the most exciting thing for me is that I've never been here, so feeling what the energy is like, and it's been so awesome so far. I really love it.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff. I'm going to also give a shout out, Kyle. So if you haven't been to our table yet, swing by the Horror Movie Night table. Kyle has an incredible Etsy shop called Horror Finds where he just sells books and VHS tapes and posters, and he brought a bunch of his stuff here to sell.
Oh, fuck yeah.
But also, he presented me a gift that he found from an estate sale, because if there's something I love more than horror movies, it's the Muppets. And it is a Miss Piggy porcelain piggy bank that you have to put the coins through her cleavage.
Yeah.
It is the craziest thing I've ever seen.
It's like early Muppet Show era, and obviously that was a little more like
Risque, yeah.
than anything
There's
else.
something
and-
really upsetting about objectifying a pig puppet.
yeah.
There's something real. That's layers. There's layers to that.
Yeah.
It crossed some weird line that feels like it shouldn't have been a line that existed in the first place.
And if I was more
Yeah.
anti-capitalist, I would try to figure out something to say about it. But it's just too cute.
It's too cute.
It's great.
Well, we're winding down. There's one more part that I'm going to bring down the mood of the room real quick. But before I do that, I just wanted to thank Jordan and JB for being here one more time. Where can people go and check out Camp Nightmare?
You can go to campnightmare.com. All of our episodes are on there. We're also on like every streaming service possible. And if you guys are feeling extra generous, you can go to patreon.com/campnightmare. We have a number of tiers you can sign up for. I'm not going to proselytize and sell us that hard here, but just go check our show out, campnightmare.com.
Yep.
Anything there, Fried Berry?
No, you got it. You nailed it, man.
And Kyle, real quick before I do my sad thing, also you're a director. You've got a short that's been bouncing around.
Oh, yeah.
Is there any dates that people should know about? Or
Probably. You can just find me at kylecookta.com. I'm going to send out, I have a newsletter, and you can sign up for it. I'll send out all the dates that it's playing. It's going to be playing in Connecticut, Florida. North Carolina's going to play at the Charlotte Film Festival. But yeah, it's a short called The Woodsman. It's a Christmas horror short, sort of Tales from the Crypt E.
Nice.
But cheaper and not that. And then I have at the table I did a documentary called Survival of the Film Freaks, which is about how technology changes the definition of cult cinema. So it's got Joe Bob Briggs and Ted Raimi, Adam Green, some older school directors like Graydon Clark and William Sachs, and then some newer guys like Jackson Stewart and Steven Scarlatta. So if you're into docs, it's also on Tubi, which I love and will always sing the praises of.
Yep.
But if you're a physical media person, I got Blu-ray, DVD, VHS, and the cassette soundtrack. So,
Dude, we have been pushing Tubi since episode 1. I'm just waiting for that fucking check, dude.
spread the gospel,
Like,
y'all.
listen,
Spread
Tubi,
the
I know you're
gospel.
free, but I know you
That
have
shit's in the
money,
mail any
motherfucker.
day now.
It's the
Any
best.
day now.
The Suckling's on there, and I'm sure all the other double
Yeah,
features.
pretty much
except-
everything we've talked about except for
Beetlejuice.
mine.
Yeah.
All right, so guys, here's the super sad part of this podcast. 1 month ago, I was at the Scares That Care convention, and I got a phone call in the middle of the convention, let me know that my best friend since high school had passed away unexpectedly. And tonight was her memorial service. And I was given an option to cancel this and go to that, or come to this. And Megan had been the biggest supporter of everything I'd ever done since I was a 13-year-old kid with a bunch of crazy ideas, and I felt like there was nothing she would have rather had me do than continue to chase the dream that I've been chasing my whole life and doing these podcasts and being here with all of you. But because I still really miss my friend, I just wanted to take a second to come up here and just say that Horror Movie Night has always, and part of what I loved about Camp Nightmare as well, the second I met them, was we always care about mental health, and we care about people taking care of each other. And just know that every person on this stage, as much as we would love to talk to you about horror movies, we will talk to you about anything. If you need anything, we are here. Hug your friends. Tell your friends that you love them. Be kind to each other. These are just simple rules to be a good human being. Thank you so much for giving us the time to just sit up here and entertain you for the next hour. And, Mark Patton will be here in just a couple minutes to talk about a much better Nightmare on Elm Street movie with Freddy's Revenge. So thank you so much, guys. We've been Horror Movie Night.
Thank you guys so much for having us as well. Give it up for Horror Movie Night.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.